Representative Tulsi Gabbard was on Joe Rogan's show. Now, I haven't heard of this.
It was very good. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it now. Later.
So no spoilers. Good. I kind of want to hear it myself.
She talks about running for Congress and presidency, but not really Congress because she's already done that. It was good.
But right, now I'm confused. What did she talk about?
I think it's
I don't want to spoil it. Kid said not to spoil it.
No spoilers.
Sorry.
So, but it's a Tulsi time.
Let's see.
No?
Yeah.
There we go.
I love Amy Klobuchar in the background just being like,
yeah.
So
how's that? There we go.
All right. So now here, let's actually talk about why we're talking about Tulsi Gabbard. Well, this has to deal with an article that I read in the Washington Post. Now, for the first 3 pages, they don't really talk about her supporters. And of course, what they're trying to get at as well. What's the deal with Tulsi Gabbard and her supporters? They're trying to figure out who they are. I mean, I remember Washington Post did an article about this some time ago in Iowa, where it was quite clearly a smear against them. Now, first three pages, they're basically talking about Tulsi Gabbard, her standing in the Democratic Party. She meets with Assad. So let me just give you some excerpts from this article. There was no alcohol at the debate party for Tulsi Gabbard's campaign, which threw for supporters in there. There was music there, but that didn't mean the attendees didn't forego to fun drinking games. That's 3 for Warren, 0 for Tulsi. You know, they're doing a lot of drinking games. So again, the article goes onto this excerpt here. Left out of the Democratic Party that seems to them bent on quashing real dissent and examination of systematic corruption. Left out of the Republican Party that rarely preaches or practices fiscal conservatism, and to them seems just as corrupt. And so this is just an understanding of, or at least the article's attempt of understanding who Tulsi Gabbard and who her supporters are. But the article goes on to state she appears to be more popular among Republicans than Democrats in Iowa. According to a political scientist analyst, she had support of 10% of independents in a Quinnipiac University poll of New Hampshire that was published earlier this month. Asked why they support her or why they're really into her campaign, they state a non-interventionist foreign policy, her insistence that the United States get out of business policing the world, as well as civil liberties such as the right not to be spied on by the National Security Agency, authenticity and integrity. They often cite Gabbard's 16 years of military service and her 2 tours of duty in Iraq. She's still an active service member in the Hawaiian National Guard. And the article then goes on to state this. Gabbard has gone from being a on the debate stage, as in how she keeps qualifying, she's made every debate but September's, to a genuine thorn in the side of frontrunners and the Democratic National Committee. They even go on to mention that the Trump War Room Twitter account even retweeted her remarks about the Democratic Party being corrupt, and also criticizing her own national party. And then here's an interesting thing that they put in here, and I don't know why, and I have a problem with this too, and I understand there's a lot of people who like or who laughed at Tulsi Gabbard being on Saturday Night Live, like, hey, finally, they got somebody to, do a parody of her. In a Saturday Night Live parody, the Democratic debate, Gabbard was portrayed by Cecily Strong as the night's villain. Strong's Gabbard says, I smell your fear and it makes me stronger. I'm wearing the white of your suit of your fallen hero, Hillary Clinton. So, just a little off topic. I did not like that Saturday Night Live skit. And I found it to be concerning. And I always say that, of course, corporate media is going to, the way they've been portraying Tulsi Gabbard as a Saturday morning cartoon villain. Here on Saturday Night Live, they actually portrayed her as a Saturday morning cartoon villain.
They listened to Kit.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm just waiting for the next skit where, I don't know, Putin comes across the debate stage, gives Tulsi Gabbard a bag of money, and then all of a sudden, more Russiagate smears are going to be being put on Tulsi Gabbard. I think... Don't be surprised if you see some more negative portrayals of Tulsi Gabbard on SNL, trying to make her seem like this big bad villain. What
was the scenario that you spelled out? You were like, I can't. They're going to do this one day.
Well, what I could see them doing for SNL, like Putin somewhere in the backstage gives Tulsi Gabbard a bag of money for an SNL skit.
Yeah.
I could see them doing that.
Yep.
And again, to be fair, like Kit literally was like, they're making her a Saturday morning cartoon. They
introduced her as a villain, the peace candidate, the anti-interventionist candidate. So also we got a super chat from Moses Romero. Thank you for covering Tulsi the way she deserves to be covered. Tulsi 2020. Well, thank you so much for the super chat. We do appreciate it.
I just want to say really quickly on this that Tulsi is. Maybe I'll say it this way. I'm proud of the Washington Post. I guess it's just small, doesn't have a lot of money for reporters. They finally are like, hey, maybe we should check out who supports Tulsi Gabbard, and then we'll fuck it up that way. But at least they're taking the step to pretend that they care.
I disagree with the entire framing of the piece.
Well, hold on.
It's like we can't even. You continue with the piece, yeah.
Right. So, because here, so there's a lot more to talk about in the piece, and I do want to get Paul's comments on it. So, they also then go on to mention the same stuff we've heard again before that really doesn't mean anything. First, they mentioned how she met with President-elect Trump in 2016. Wow, geez, surprise. A lot of people met with Trump. And then how she met with President Assad of Syria.
Shocked and chagrined.
Oh, gee, no one wants to talk about Nancy Pelosi meeting with Assad. But two different things altogether. The article then goes on to start describing who's really attracted to Tulsi Gabbard and her campaign. And some people are saying that she sounded almost like a spiritual leader like Marianne Williamson. Then we get at least names of people. One, you got a former an ROT student from Athens, Georgia, said he is a registered Democrat. Then you got somebody who voted for Gary Johnson, who felt betrayed by the Republican Party. Then you have a former Trump, said one guy who's a conservative who didn't vote for Trump in 2016, but wouldn't rule it out. And also you have some people who are Tulsi or bust. And then they also mentioned this, and it's apropos because she was on Joe Rogan's show. It's a phenomenon. Gabbard's fiery anti-establishment stances have earned her support from Joe Rogan, an extremely popular podcaster with libertarian views who likes to rail against political correct culture and wokeness. Some time ago where
that's very coded language.
Yeah, that is coded language because I've heard corporate media say that Joe Rogan is alt-right or extremely Republican or conservative. But he's none of those things, and it's trying to again portray Tulsi Gabbard supporters as extreme alt-right or extreme left or people who are libertarian or people who are extremely out of touch. And I don't like the concept that, you're trying to demonize people for liking a candidate that's really has political courage to call out the DNC corruption as well as Hillary Clinton herself. Also, we got a super chat from Denise Gibson. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Tulsi must sue MSNBC, Joanne Reed, CNN, The Washington Post, and The New York Times for their slander, which is, you know what? I mean, she's possibly, because they've been smearing her character as something that she's not. So
I think she has a pretty strong slander libel case.
Yeah. So Paul, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah. Again, I was saying the framing of this is completely wrong, and you touched on it there at the end. This is an example of voter shaming. That's what this is. It doesn't take talking to someone's supporters to find out what that candidate is all about. The reason that person has supporters is because that candidate is talking about what they're all about. But the Washington Post and CNN and all of these various news sources have spent their time being willfully ignorant about what Tulsi is talking about, choosing instead to smear her as some kind of warmonger who speaks with dictators and it just wants to give them all of everything that they want because she's a crazy madman and she's in Putin's pocket and is engaged in treasonous activity. That's the end of the story. She didn't have anything policy-wise to say. We didn't listen to what she said, but what we heard? We heard about the Russia stuff, and we heard about the Assad stuff, and guess what? Cultist. She's a cultist.
That's the interesting thing. If you look at what would you say her strengths are? Well, you can say, she's a soldier, she's a medic within that, so she heals people. Well, healing, that's basically like a spiritual hocus pocus Marianne William, and she's a foreign policy. She's best, I think across the board, we think she is the best on foreign policy.
Yeah.
And so what do they hit her with? Well, therefore, because she knows about Russia, knows about America and how this works, she's anti-American because she's pro-Russian, pro-Assad, pro-Modi. Don't forget, Modi is a bad guy as well. More people voted for him.
Obama never spoke with him. He was always terrible.
And also Nancy Pelosi never did either. But there's also a bit of, there's a bit of a danced in racism in this. I mean, they don't like her, and they're trying to get as many people as they can to agree with them. And it's still crazy that even with AOC, they were like, we should probably figure out who's voting for her. We have no idea about her, even though everyone online already did. Tulsi's in the same type of camp. She's not going away.
There's one thing that kind of annoys me a little bit, how corporate media has been covering the race, especially for establishment candidates. Take, for example, Warren, Biden, or Pete Buttigieg. When they're at some sort of folksy event, and the article talks wow, there's a lot of average people here. It's a small folksy event. It's not this big fancy dinner party or anything, right? This article talks about Tulsi Gabbard's watch party. And I don't know, Paul, Daniel, if I'm wrong in sensing any kind of hostility towards this article or maybe the way it's
Gearing up
worded,
for a double standard here.
yeah, it'll be a double standard. Hang on, check this out. And I just want you to just get your final thoughts on this one. The watch party was only a 3-minute drive from the debate at Tyler Perry Studios, but it felt even more on the fringe than that. Whereas Gabbard's reception among her fellow Democrats had been icy, here, the atmosphere was warm and folksy. The food on offer was Costco pizza, lemonade served out of one of those orange coolers that Super Bowl winners dump on their coach's head.
An igloo cooler.
Right, hold on. and a sloppy tray of overcooked penne with Mariana sauce.
We had to make sure
with Mariana sauce.
It was overcooked.
2 college students from Hawaii who had taken a gap year to become full-time volunteers manned the merchandise table. Her father had brought along 3 friends with whom he played in a folk band back in high school in the 1960s. They sang Simon and Garfunkel and a song Mike had written for his daughter, She'll Do the Right Thing for You and Me, Tulsi in 2020. Again, it's just I don't know, the way they wrote that.
It was clearly very folksy. They had this cheese on bread that they had purchased from a large box store. It's amazing.
Yeah.
They had beverages from an insulated plastic cooler. Can you imagine?
But that you jump on top of the coach's head when he wins a Super Bowl or a football game. Yeah,
They sang these folksy songs with instruments made of wood with metal strings.
And where'd they say that she had overcooked food? Like, I love that they're like,
overcooked penne with Mariana sauce.
But let's make sure that we let everyone know we're a food critic. This is the what's the name of this place?
Okay.
They clearly don't know what
Wishington
flavors complement
Goose.
one another.
All right.
Very, yeah.
So final note for this story, and that is, look, in order to fight for a better future, you have to call out the hypocrisy of the DNC and the corporate media. And yes, also the RNC establishment too, because it seems, we wouldn't be seeing all these smear articles if they weren't afraid of Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard has done damage. Tulsi Gabbard is a hard hitter and she's unapologetic. And I'm glad that, she made it to those previous debate stages. And she's very close, I think, very close now to meeting the donor threshold to be on the 6th Democratic debate.
She was, wait, there we go. She was just on Joe Rogan. Even if it hasn't been reported yet, she's passed it.
She's passed it?
She was like, when she was on Joe Rogan, she's like, I get to get 200,000 and I'm at 199,000. And Joe Rogan's like, now you're at 200 or something like
something
that. So
like that.
She's passed it. It may not be official, but she's passed it right now.
Right. Well, then
I'm going to
good.
call it first news agency to call it, Hardlands Media.
Well, then.
But this whole article is gaslighting. The whole thing. Tulsi, there's nothing redeeming about Tulsi. There's no reason that anyone likes her. Let's go talk to the people and figure out why they like her. I don't know. They're crazy, folksy people that are a bunch of fringe. Oh, man, you don't want to be a part of that group. They're weird and eat overcooked pasta.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Again.
That's exactly what they're weird. That's it. Washington Post on Tulsi. Her fans are weird. They eat overcooked pasta.
Oh, just a quick reminder, everyone. Washington Post. Democracy dies in darkness, owned by Jeff Bezos, a man whose company pays 0 in taxes. There we go. Just remember that.